Hello, here, welcome back. I also did forget to mention that I don't remember, I knew there was a scene that was 18 plus, but there may be more later. So, when you advance in time, that there may be 18 plus scenes eventually happening. I don't know about one so far, so there might be more or earlier, but I remember them specifically. So, let's say if I had nothing 18 plus, but voting on. Also, the link to the fan fiction is in the description below, and let's continue. Who knows? Maybe more than three than four if I feel up to it though.
The pain you're in was a cozy place, with floors made of wood polished by generations of feet walking over it, with old battered tables and low benches. It was decorated with the heads of several local monsters, from a large-looking lizard thing with a horn on its snout to the head of a bird that had to have been enormous, considering its head was as big as Izuku's torso with a wicked beak. There was a roaring hearth and a well-stocked bar with a variety of wines and fine ales, and the food that was offered, while simple, was tasty and rather filling. Currently, Izuku was sitting with a glass of watered wine, nibbling at some goat cheese and picking at a quiche with wild mushrooms and nuts mixed in. He was watching as dozens of villagers had eagerly lined up as Aqua healed them of various infirmities, from head colds to even missing limbs, all the while proclaiming the virtues of the Axis faith. You see, in the Axis Church, our tenets are very simple. Aqua lectured to her adoring new converts. You should enjoy life and love one another, for life is hard and you could die tomorrow, so why worry about it? Even the local priest had immediately declared himself willing to follow the Axis faith upon seeing the miracles that Aqua was performing. Once he'd converted, she'd somehow empowered him to begin performing feats of magic himself, from causing water to spurt forth from his hands using nature's beauty to being able to do minor healing spells. It would have been a lot more impressive, except for the frankly insane sermon Aqua insisted on delivering. No matter who or what you love, I, Aqua, goddess of water, accept you. Be a Lolican Yale fan or have a brother complex, the Axis Church believes that all love is good. Good grief. Yes, Lady Aqua. The enchanted villagers agreed, and a weeping mother came forward, carrying a wooden box. My baby, he died of the pox a day ago. Can you possibly? Resurrection, Aqua proclaimed, and opened the box to reveal a cooing, healthy infant. The mother wept, bowing low before Aqua as her husband set down an offering of wine at Aqua's feet. Bringing the dead back to life is a simple feat for a goddess like me. Just know one who died of old age, they'll just croak again. And if it's been more than a day or so, no luck, their other souls moved on. But everything else is easy. Incredible, Count Blois breathed as he sat down on the bench next to Izuku. He was a man in his middle years, going bald and gray, but had the look of a hardened campaigner. Apparently, it was the job of the local noble to keep the village safe, and while Count Blois employed a free mage and 2 knights, he and his 2 sons fought with swords in hand to protect their people. He was well liked and respected by the villagers from what Izuku could tell. Truly, she must be the goddess Aqua. I had not thought the old religion so potent, and yet, yeah, she's something else. Izuku agreed. The healing was impressive, and the resurrection was unreal, but honestly, it wasn't all that different from a powerful quirk, so Izuku didn't see what the fuss was about. Couldn't they tell Aqua was a spoiled child? Blois turned to Izuku, smiling in contentment. Despite the man's scarred and battered face and the chunk missing out of his nose, he managed to look genial and pleasant. He tugged at his long, waxed mustache, twirling it in his fingers. So tell me, young man, are you also some sort of messenger from the divine realm? Me, no, I was, a student at a school for heroes in a land called Japan, Izuku explained. Ah, yes, the divine realm. Blois agreed, nodding and understanding. That is where the champion of the new religion, Saint Ye, is from as well. You must be a powerful warrior or mage. Kinda. I'm sorta new at this, Izuku admitted. I don't even have a hero license yet. Aqua sorta, I mean, the goddess asked me to come help save this world, but we didn't have much time to prepare. My boy, here there is but one requirement to be a hero, Blois said seriously. He suddenly stood, beckoning to Izuku. Come with me, I know just the thing. Blois spoke to one of the villagers. He nodded back. Come, Lord Midoriya, it will be my honor and privilege. I'm just a high school The high school. That is a fitting name for an institute of the divine realm. I'm Martel, the village blacksmith. Martel took Izuku across the village to his workshop where forge lay cold and idle. Most of the work Martel seemed to do were simple things like nails, horseshoes, and farm tools. He ignored all of those, going to a corner and pulling out a locked chest. Taking a key from his belt, the blacksmith carefully opened it and withdrew a long object wrapped in oiled rags. Removing the rags, Martel revealed a simple Western-style hand-and-a-half sword with a leather grip. "It is not much, but I humbly offer it to you, Lord Midoriya," Martel said, bowing and proffering the sword to Izuku. Izuku looked to Boys, who nodded. The only requirement to become a hero is to take up the sword and vow to keep the people safe from harm. It is not a storied blade or one made of enchanted materials, but I hope this weapon can aid you and Lady Aqua in some small fashion. Izuku took up the sword, finding it to be surprisingly light, no more than a few kilos in weight. Thank you, Mr. Martel, Lord Boys. I'll try to use it to save everyone with a smile on my face. Izuku managed a grin, which seemed to please the two older men. But, I don't know how to use a sword. It is very simple. Martel laughed. You stick them before they stick you? You do not know the blade. Boys asked, surprised. My father taught me from when I was a child. Help my son, Anton, he could help you. He is my youngest, and about your age, I should guess. That is, he is about 15 summers. Oh, yes, I'm 15. Izuku agreed hastily. I can. In the distance, Izuku heard a faint, echoing boom like thunder. As Izuku watched, a towering mushroom cloud lifted into the sky. It seems you will have need of that blade at once, Midoriya. Come to arms, boys. Marie, Aqua is more. Aqua strutted out of the pannier, bearing that odd staff of hers and practically preening at the cheers and applause from the villagers. Go, Lady Aqua, we have faith in you. Our goddess. Along with Aqua came Sir Jack, a young knight armed with a long spear and a sword at his side, dressed in mail and plate. The Count's son Anton was there as well, bearing an unstrung longbow and a sword of his own. Marie the Freemage was clad in leather armor and had a dagger and some sort of glass orb. She was older, about the same age as Boys, and had been in his employ for some years. The Count's older son and knight were often a. Izuku felt grossly underprepared until Martel. This looks to be about your size, my lord, Marital said, helping Izuku put on the mail shirt. It was a bit loose and came down to about mid. Wow, do you have? Aqua asked Izuku, and the sword skill? You must have gotten a lot of levels from killing that lick. I don't think so, Izuku said, feeling confused. Two villagers hurried. Hop finally, travel style fit for a goddess, Aqua declared, then tried to scramble into the saddle. She clearly, I don't know how to. Izuku told. Thanks. Count Boys called, already mounted and having found time to don light armor himself. Let us ride to battle. All right, giddy up, Aqua ordered, flicking her reins. The horse whickered, then looked back at her. Hi-ho, Silver. Away the horse snorted and bent to crop at some grass. Aqua, maybe you should walk too, Izuku suggested. Have you ever ridden? Well, no, but I thought it would just know what to do, she admitted. She hopped down, looking irritated. Fine, I don't need some stupid animal to go into battle. First, blessing. A warm feeling washed over Izuku as Aqua put her hand on him. She ran over and did the same. Right, let's do this, Aqua declared, shadow boxing and grinning. Time to show. Izuku broke into a run, heading off toward. He found he was able to tap into one for all, just a little, and was easily able to keep up with the horses. Aqua, on the other hand, was gasping for breath in less than a minute, and a bewildered goddess don't do cardio. Weird. Then she vomited onto the ground, apparently having partaken a bit too much in the offerings of wine. To Izuku's amazement, it came out as you say, milady. And he glanced at Izuku, who had barely broken a sweat as he ran. I take it you do this cardio, Lord Midoriya. I'm not a lord, Izuku told him. But yes, I do a 5-hour run every morning before school and endurance training 3 times a week. Yes, I train daily as well, Anton agreed. It is the duty of a lord. They hadn't gone far until Izuku spotted a strange figure racing towards them over the hills. At first he thought it was some handsome. Izuku cried excitedly, and it looks like she's rescued someone. Ugh, Aqua groaned. Make it stop, make the horse stop moving. Izuku shied away from the splatter as I'll take care of it. He was surprised at his sudden control of One for All and wondered if it had something to do with what Aqua had done to him. Hatsum, it's me, Midoriya. Midoriya, what are you doing here? Hatsum demanded, coming to a halt a few meters away. Never mind. Did you see that explosion? That was pretty impressive. I'm going to learn how to make babies that can do the same thing with the help of my new friend. The rumpled girl on May's back looked up from beneath her floppy black hat, which had two buttons sewed onto it that looked sort of like red eyes. Her own eyes were crimson, and she grinned at Izuku. That was just a taste of my incredible explosion magic. For I am the dark goddess of destruction, she who will master explosion. Ugh, Megumin, stop yelling so loud, Aqua whined, slipping off the horse and crumpling to the ground. Stupid horses. Aqua, Megumin gasped, jerking back and causing Hatsum to fall over on top of her. My lady, Anton cried, dropping down to help Aqua sit up. Are you well? I'll be better after I knock some sense into my idiot friend. Aqua growled, standing and stalking over to disentangle Megumin from Hatsum. She grabbed the girl by the ear, shaking her. What are you doing here? You're supposed to be judging souls back in the divine realm. I should have known you'd be responsible for that explosion. What, did a rock look at you funny? Oh, Aqua, stop, Megumin pleaded, pointing behind her. No, it wasn't a rock. Izuku spun, and sure enough, they were both missing bits. I killed hundreds of them with my explosion, but these two got away, Megumin claimed. What, there were at most 12 I counted, Hatsum said, dusting herself off and standing. She was wearing her signature goggles and the same tracksuit that Izuku had on. Oh, of course there were, Aqua grumbled. Be ready. These are beasts most foul, boys called. Marie raised her orb and chanted, and a first-sized ball of fire. It staggered but stood and kept on coming. What kind of lame magic is that? Aqua demanded. This blinding blue light enveloped the skeletons, and with a groan they were turned to dust. Aqua flipped her long hair over her shoulder, grinning widely. See, that's how a goddess handles things. Incredible, Marie gasped, her hand clutching her chest. I have rarely seen such powerful feats of magic, and never from a lone practitioner. PFFF, that was something a simple priest could have done, Aqua said dismissively. She winked at Marie. If I were really serious, then you'd see something. But low-level minions like that are hardly worth the effort. Izuku went over to Hatsum, who was grinning maniacally as she looked around. So I guess you came here to save the world too. What? No, I came here to help create the most amazing babies the world has ever seen. Did you know I managed to make an explosion so big it almost destroyed the world and ripped a hole in space-time? May asked excitedly. Yes, it was the most incredible thing I have ever seen. Megumin sighed, clutching at the staff in the ground next to her. One day I shall master explosion magic to the degree that May has and unleash it. Izuku felt more than slightly concerned at that, but bent down to offer the strange new girl. Sorry to bother you, but Megumin said, blushing slightly and averting her gaze. I sort of used up all my MP on my explosion earlier and can't walk now. Izuku said, wondering just what the heck MP was. He gently scooped Megumin up in his arms. She wasn't that heavy, really. She looked like she was just an average high schooler herself, except for her weird scarlet eye patch and robes, which really just made it look like she was wearing a hero costume. Especially since when she removed the patch, Izuku saw both of her eyes were just fine. Well, I guess at least I'll have some help defeating the Lord of the Tomb now, Aqua sighed. She smiled at Megumin, her earlier irritation forgotten. It's good to see you, Megumin. I'm surprised you were so desperate to start adventuring again, but I guess I should have known you'd be interested in that Big Bang. Well, I will miss getting to play games all day with Kazuma and Darkness and beating Union at everything, but the world has needed my mastery of magic once more, Megumin proclaimed as Izuku carried her back towards the village. Are these girls divine heroes as well? Anton asked, edging his horse. No, hat. Babies, where? Anton. She means her inventions, like her goggles. Izuku. She went to school with me. Ah, I see. You must be great warriors then. But I thought you said you did not ride. And he was riding me? I am an excellent hat. Oh, I see. Or you meant, ah, well, I shall leave you alone then. Anton babbled, going bright red and quickly steering his horse away to where his father and the retainers were following at a respectful distance. Wait, she didn't mean. Izuku called, feeling hopelessly embarrassed himself. He looked down at Megumin, who was scowling up at him. Don't think this is some stupid H game like Kazuma plays where you can get yourself a harem, Mr. Megumin lectured. I might not look it, but I am a dark goddess of explosions. Right, Aqua? I mean, you do help me judge souls, so sort of. Aqua mused. But to be a real goddess, you need worshippers. Then I shall start the cult of explosions, Megumin declared. Hatsum, will you be my— I don't know, can High Priestess make super cute babies? Hatsum asked. Only if they are for making incredible explosions or support items for mages or other heroes for bringing great justice down upon the heads of the wicked. Such is the way of the Crimson Demon cult. Hastem considered this for about him. I can still make super cute babies as long as they can make things blow up. Heck, I do that. Or Aqua is, you're a real goddess. Huh, why? Aqua, oh, you think she'll steal followers from me? Don't worry, they'll still be in my downline. Your downline. Izuku asked, a sense of dread sending icy fingers down his spine. Oh yeah, you see, I'm a senior goddess. I just recruited Megumin, who was immortal until I got a hold of her. Any follower she gets automatically give 10% of their offerings and praise to me, plus I get a bonus for having a lesser goddess under me. That is how I got to be a senior goddess after all. I recruited Eris too way back in the day. Hey, maybe if I get enough new followers here and a few new gods and goddesses under me, I can get promoted to Elder Goddess. That means I get a free vacation every millennia. The Elder Goddess. Izuku asked, frowning. Aqua, this is starting to sound a lot like a pyramid scheme. PFFF, this is nothing like a pyramid scheme. It's just, triangularly shaped, Aqua said, drawing one in the air before her. Look, it's all very complicated, and not something I expect a mere mortal to comprehend. I don't know, my mom sold Avon for a while, Izuku said, shuddering. It was awful. How those chumps are small time. Stick with me, Izuku. Maybe you can recruit some followers and end up a god someday too, Aqua declared, putting her arm around Izuku's shoulders and gesturing broadly with her free hand. Okay, Izuku said, trying to wiggle away. If all gods were like this, Izuku was going to become a dedicated atheist. Izuku cannot become a god, May huffed. He has to become a follower of Megumin. Hey, too late. He's my champion or whatever, so he's automatically a part of the Axis faith. Go find your own followers, Aqua snapped. When they got back to the village, it was growing dark. Megumin had fallen asleep in Izuku's arms, much to his discomfort. He placed her in a bed at the pannier, and Izuku went down to eat dinner. Aqua was busy showing off to the villagers, though her sermons were growing. Ye see, it's like super important to purge demons and undead. Despite the increasing inanity of Aqua's pronouncements, after dinner, Izuku decided to look for Hastum, as at least she was somewhat normal. Hatsum wasn't hard to find, thankfully, as she'd made a beeline for Martel's shop after talking to Megumin for a bit. Even now, as the stars started to come out, Izuku could see the light of his forge burning brightly. He headed over, hoping to have someone at least a little familiar with whom to talk to. Of course, when he did enter the shop, Izuku froze in the doorway, his eyes nearly popping out of his head. Hatsum was indeed hard at work, but she'd taken off her tracksuit and was only wearing her goggles, a heavy blacksmith apron, gloves, and her underwear. She was bent over the forge, muttering to herself as she withdrew some glowing metal from it. Izuku was just about to slink away to, you? Midoriya, right. Just the person I was hoping to see. You're super muscly, right. Well, get in here and help me. I need someone to work the bellows, and that other guy ran off somewhere. Izuku stammered. Oh, too hot for you? Don't worry, you can just put your clothes over there with mine. Here, put on this apron and these gloves. Quickly, it's almost ready. Hatsum ordered, sticking the metal back in the forge and hurrying over to bodily drag Izuku into the smithy. The next thing Izuku knew, she'd stripped him out of his tracksuit, dressed him in a leather apron, and had him working the bellows as she barked out commands. Harder, I need more. Damn these primitive materials. How am I supposed to forge proper steel like this? It took all of Izuku's strength and endurance, but he managed to get the forge hot enough to suit Hatsume's needs. She withdrew the metal and placed it on the anvil, banging away a few times to shape it, then sticking it back inside to reheat. What are you making? Izuku gasped, leaning on the bellows in exhaustion after Hatsume appeared to have finally finished her project. It was still dark out, but the eastern horizon was beginning to lighten. We are making super cute babies, obviously. This is merely the beginning of my career. Have you noticed the utter lack of technology here? The very first thing we need to do is build a way to generate electricity. We have made the first part of a steam engine, Midoriya. Izuku looked at the various objects that Hatsume had made, but frankly it just looked, oh well, that's good. What we have barely begun. I've only made some valves in the piston so far. We'll need to manufacture a boiler and cylinder, a water storage tank, and the generator itself with coils of copper wire, Hatsume said, grinning widely. She pushed up her goggles, making her look a bit like a yellow-eyed raccoon. Her face was so covered in soot. Don't you see? We have the chance to invent. I thought you were going to make dynamite or something. For explosions. Izuku asked, feeling utterly drained. But there is no need. Megumi Hatsume dragged Izuku outside to the edge of the village. They went a ways outside of town, with Izuku stumbling part of the. When they got to the top of a hill that overlooked an empty field. Yeah, Hatsume, should we really be standing here? We're not decent. Izuku protested, rubbing his bare arms and flushing. He just finally processed that they were both basically in their underwear, having left it. Oh, this is going to be more than decent. Now, how did they go again? Hatsume extended her hands above her head and began to cackle. 2CS plus 2H2O to 2CSOH plus H2. As Hatsume spoke, glowing rainbow sparks began to fill the air around them. Izuku managed to forget his aches and the situation's awkwardness, smiling at the beautiful display. How was Hatsume doing this? The sparks began to race out over the field, and then collide as glowing circles formed in the air. He frowned as she finished. Wasn't that a cesium oxidation reaction with water? He had just enough time to realize what was happening as the sparks suddenly slammed together in violent bursts of raw power. The massive shockwave slammed into Izuku and Hatsume, and he managed to grab her and shield her from most of the blast. A tower pillar of fire at least 20 meters high lit up the sky as bright as the noonday sun for a brief instant, and Izuku was nearly deafened. Rocks and hunks of earth peppered Izuku's back as he clung to Hatsume. By the time he blew, that felt mmm. Yes, that was even better than making babies. Pick me up, Midoriya, I want to see. How big is the crater? Take me down there, I want to measure it. I need to establish a baseline comparison between my explosions and Megumins. What do you think? How many tons of TNT was that worth? I'm putting you to bed. Izuku sighed and slung Hatsume over his shoulder in a fireman's carry. And me, too. What? No. I don't have time to sleep. Oh, I feel, wow. Midoriya, did you know you have lots of muscles? They're very nice. Thanks. Izuku squeaked as he hurried back towards the village. Hopefully no one saw this. Who was he kidding? Hopefully everyone was terrified and hiding. But of course they were not. Megumin and Aqua were leading. How is here? How he had Midoriya? Aqua swore as she. Midoriya? Hatsume. Reluctantly, Izuku lowered Hatsume to the ground. She was unable to stand though, collapsing against his chest and giggling to herself. That was not monsters, Megumin declared, her red eyes glowing in the dim light. That was the magic of explosion. Trust me, it was my first one. Well, my first magic one. I make regular explosions all the time. Izuku stammered. We were making baby, Hatsume said. And then Izuku got tired, but I had him help me finish by pumping real. Oh, boys said going. He turned before Izuku could stammer out a better explanation. What he overheard boys telling the villagers was enough to make it. From the divine realm, you see, not like mortals. Release of divine energy, how they procreate, I believe. Well, next time, just warn us, okay? You woke me up with all, Aqua complained. Of course, Hatsun picked the time to finally pass out. Izuku ended up having to carry her back to the inn, the skin crawling with all the while from the looks the villagers. He managed to stagger up the stairs. He sat down on the bed himself, just long enough to catch his breath. He closed his eyes just for a moment. Aqua came in a few minutes later, tucking Izuku in next to Hatsune, both of them snoring loudly. Sleep well, Aqua giggled. Remember, the Axis Church supports all kinds of love, even if it's too neat. Then she left, gently shutting the door behind her. Remind me again why we're doing this. They didn't even offer to pay us. Kazuma complained, holding his torch up above his head to try to see into the darkness of the mine around them. All he saw were a few broken wooden crates and some rusted equipment scattered around. Nothing valuable enough to loot, that was for sure. Because we're heroes and it's our job to save people, Uraraka snapped, glaring at Kazuma. Then she blushed and looked away. And also she did pay me. But that's not the point. I thought you were supposed to be some sort of demigod big-shot hero. I am a big-time adventurer and a demigod, thank you very much. Kazuma replied, rolling his eyes. Which is why it's a bit beneath me to go hunting a bunch of low-level monsters in some stupid starter town dungeon. Oh, Kazuma, Kazuma. Darkness gasped, suddenly stopping and caressing herself. That's my name. Kazuma, do you think this world has male orcs? Dark, vicious, vile, reprehensible male orcs, the kind that would kidnap hapless female adventurers and submit them to all. Something scampered in the darkness towards Kazuma, but he lifted his boot and squashed it quickly as Uri. I don't know, darkness, but I absolutely forbid you from doing something perverted. Remember, you volunteered for this. You have to keep Uraraka and me safe. Besides, this is just supposed to be a bunch of bugs. Uraraka sent another evil look Kazuma's way. He gave it at best a 2 out of 5 on the death glare scale. Aqua could do much better on her worst day. I can keep myself safe. Thank you very much. Sure thing, just remember that if the going gets tough, I'm activating Lark and getting the hell out of here, Kazuma warned. The only one I give a shit about is darkness, and she enjoys it when I abandon her. Oh, truly you are a vile, wicked man. Darkness panted, her cheeks flushed as she grinned widely. I can't want for some monsters to attack us so that you may pretend to sneak away, only to return with a brilliant plan and save us just when the monster has finished beating me and covering me in slime and other vile substances. Uraraka gave Takayami a flat look. I think both our bonuses are bogus. Oh, I don't know. The comedic value alone is worth the price of admission. Takayami chuckled. Dark Shadow nodded. Yeah, they are funny. But be warned, Kazatrash, Takayami said. In this environment, should all the lights go out, Dark Shadow shall run wild. In that case, I implore you to take the others and flee, lest the shadows consume them. Kazuma eyed Uraraka, expecting her to lecture Takayami that she didn't need help, only for her to look concerned. Will you be, okay in here? Dark Shadow's already getting bigger. That was true, despite the fact that they were all carrying bright torches. The further into the depths of the mine they went, the larger and more fierce-looking Dark Shadow became. Fear not, for now, I can control him. Should it become too much for me, I shall warn you, Takayami promised. There, Dark Shadow. Another large bug on the ceiling, which Dark Shadow eagerly snapped up. Could that thing eat? Kazuma shrugged. He really didn't care that much. I'm sensing more bugs that way, Kazuma said, pointing down a passage to the right. Ugh, extermination. Wish we just had a kind of raid or something. Baroness von Galen had been content to let Kazuma laze around for a few days, mooching off of her at her manor. She'd even been training Darkness and Uraraka in using the sword, apparently being some sort of expert. Apparently, in this world, nobles were not just a bunch of useless high society types, but actually earned their titles by keeping towns and villages safe. Van Galen claimed she was fairly pitiful by noble standards, and it was true that the one time they had fought, Kazuma had easily beaten her with his skills, though her sword work was pretty decent. After a few days of training, though, reports had come in that one of the old mines had been infested with monster bugs. Sensing an opportunity to ditch her freeloader, Von Galen had informed Kazuma that she wasn't just going to take his word he was a hero, he was going to have to prove it to her. Darkness had, of course, eagerly agreed to investigate a dark cave with terrifying bug monsters, and Takuyami and Uraraka had seemed to believe it was their duty or something to help people. Well, that and Takuyami had given some sort of monologue about testing his limits and restraining his demons. I shall. Dark as a right. I'll be right behind you. Uraraka promised, her sword in one hand, torch in the other. Apparently, she had some weird power where she could make things float, but if she wanted to be the cannon fodder, Kazuma wasn't going to argue with her. It wasn't long before a mass of cockroaches sprang out of the shadows of darkness, who shrieked in mixed disgust and delight. Oh, what filthy creatures! Kazuma, they're crawling all over me. True to form, Darkness was swinging her sword about, causing it to bounce off of the rock of the mine shaft. To Kazuma's surprise, she actually managed to hit a couple of the rat-sized bugs, but most of them avoided her overly enthusiastic blows and crawled up on Darkness. Darkness, hang on! Uraraka cried, using her shorter sword much more effectively in the close quarters, and using her torch. She managed to... Darkness? No, but if I unleash my demon now, it could overwhelm Tak. Yeah, she'd probably enjoy that. Kazuma sighed. He took out a handful of flour from his pouch that he'd grabbed from the manor and pushed past. Uraraka, duck. Gust. Kazuma flung the flour into the air, and the wind caused it to scatter and blow. Then he raised his hand and shouted, "Kindle." The widely scattered flour particles exploded in a bright flash around Darkness, frying some of the cockroaches and stunning the rest. Then it was easy enough for Kazuma to use Chunchinmar to stab the remaining ones with Uraraka's assistance as Darkness panted contentedly on the ground. He looked back at Takuyami, frowning. "Aren't you going to help?" Takuyami looked dazed. The shadow bird moaned. "Yeah, whatever," Kazuma said, rolling his eyes. "Get up already, Darkness." Kazuma, Uraraka snapped, glaring. "You could have hurt her. That fire could have... Oh, it did." Darkness giggled as she got to her feet, hugging herself and flushing. "Oh, I needed that. Even those undead are not as rough as Kazuma is. Truly, he is a wicked, wicked man. Yet see you hurt." Uraraka trailed off, her eyes going wide as she stared at Darkness, who was moaning softly. Kazuma leaned into Uraraka, a lecherous grin on his face. "Oh, did I forget to tell you? Yeah, she totally gets off on that. Congratulations, you picked the world's pervious crusader as your bonus." Uraraka's eye darted back and forth between Kazuma and Darkness, her forehead wrinkling in consternation. "Are you both? What the heck kind of weird heroes are you? Only the kind that defeats the Devil King, saves the world, oh, and are so celebrated they get made into demigods in the divine realm," Kazuma said, buffing his fingernails on his leather armor, then admiring them. "And the kind that love to face vicious monsters," Darkness declared, raising her sword and motioning deeper into the mine. "Come, Kazuma. Those cockroaches were decent, but I need a big, tough monster to truly satisfy me. Something that will manhandle me, not just crawl all over me." "Yeah, sure, fine," Kazuma agreed. "Lead the way, Sir Pervert." He stepped forward, patting Darkness affectionately on the shoulder. "Good to be back in action with you, buddy. If I had to get sent on another stupid quest, I'm glad it was you." Darkness returned the smile. "Yes, I am glad you are with this useless night once more, Kazuma. Even though I was eager to adventure once more, I was going to miss you and the others. I do hope Megumin is not too jealous of me. That jailbait can wait her turn," Kazuma said with a shrug. "Kazuma, she is hardly jailbait now." Darkness laughed as they moved off again. "She is several hundred years old now, just like the rest of us." "What?" Kazuma gasped. "That can't be right. How long were we in the divine realm? I mean, I did have time to beat every H game I've ever wanted, and we got to max level with top-tier gear and about a dozen MMO anto." "Yes, time passes differently in the divine realm," Darkness agreed, "but I kept track. After all, unlike the rest of you, my body is my greatest ascent, and I needed to train every day to maintain it, even in the divine realm. Do you not recall the thousands of souls we judged?" "I guess," Kazuma admitted. "Do we seriously have an EET and a pervert in our party?" Uraraka groaned. I thought this was going to be fun and exciting, like those old games I used to play with my dad. How I knew it. Kazuma laughed, spinning to point an accusing finger at Uraraka. You're an otaku. I bet you're closet neat, just like me. Hardly, Takayami said dryly, dark shadows still hovering behind him, as if to hide from Kazuma. We were both enrolled at UA Academy, Japan's premier school for heroes. Don't lie. You're both wearing track suits. I bet you were in a guild or something and died going to get an advanced copy of an MMO. Kazuma taunted. He might be strong, but you don't have any cool powers. You're just a normal girl. Uraraka gave him a flat look, then suddenly smiled sweetly at him. Oh, you're so right, Kazuma, clearly. Takayami and I are just like you. Kazuma leered at Uraraka. Ha! See, Then she slapped him, full across the face. He jerked back and got ready to pound her right back. After all, he believed in gender equality, which meant that he had no problem stomping a girl. He'd let her get away with the sucker punch earlier because he had, after all, accidentally stolen her panties, so he'd started it. This time, though, there would be okay, because he let oh, darkness. He yelped. Kazuma wailed as he smacked repeatedly into the walls. Kazuma, don't worry, I'll release. Gravity suddenly reasserted its hold in Kazuma, and he fell flat in his ass, yelping in pain as a rock bit into his tailbone. He sniffed, rubbing away tears as darkness hovered over him, fussing at his bruises. For once, Kazuma sort of missed having Aqua around. Actually, he was really starting to think she might have been a valuable member of his adventuring party after all. Maybe if she had been there, they wouldn't have failed. Still think my quirk is useless. Uraraka demanded, glaring down at Kazuma as Takayami sniggered in the background. Or do you need another demonstration? You know, I'm a man who believes in gender equality. Kazuma growled as darkness helped him up. Which means I don't have any issue throwing down on someone just because they're a cute girl. And if they don't show their elders some respect, I can fight without my panties. Uraraka informed, can you? Because me, Kazuma quickly lowered. You're right. Now we're finding the source of these bugs and saving the village. Kazuma mused as he and Darkness tripped. What is it? Do you sense Dark? Yeah, there's more skittering around us. Kazuma, what do you, Dark? Well, I mean, I always thought of myself as the only sane and competent one in our party. Don't get me wrong, you girls were useful, and I learned to appreciate you and all, but still. Now I guess I'm the weird, useless one in those two's eyes. Kazuma, you were always weird and useless. Darkness laughed. Don't you remember? Okay, I get it. She should, but you can't deny I was always the brains behind our operation, Kazuma argued. It is true, we did come to rely on you for your devious and twisted stratagems, even if you were completely worthless in combat. Why, Aqua Megaman and I would often talk about how we always needed to pick up your slack when it came to facing difficult foes since you were unable to fight your own battles. Darkness tittered. Now you're just making fun of me. Kazuma grumbled, but then he smiled. It does feel good being together like this again, doesn't it? I just wished that Megumin and Aqua were here. Darkness sighed. We were never the same as an adventuring party once Aqua left. Yes, she might have been dumb as a brick, but she was a good friend in the end. I just hope she doesn't trash talk us too much for getting suckered into being adventurers again, Kazuma muttered. He suddenly paused, frowning. He'd been sensing a bunch of bugs ever since they came in, but now. Uraraka? Takayami? Hold up. Kazuma suddenly cried, running forward. He grabbed them both and jerked them back before they could turn the corner they'd been about to go around. What? Uraraka snapped. If you're going to whine or demand we go back because you're scared or something, shhhh. Kazuma hissed, putting his finger to Uraraka's lips. He motioned them up against the wall. He lowered his voice, pressing himself against the rock. Listen, I've got a lot of skills. Finally, talk. Very. Kazuma is many things, but a fool and a coward are not among them, Darkness said, all the playfulness gone out of her voice. If he says there is danger ahead, it is wise to heed him. He did this same thing many times in our quest to defeat the Devil King. It saved our lives more than once. Yes, so shut up and just wait, Kazuma said. He thrust his torch at Darkness, who had foregone one previously due to needing both hands for her blade. Hold on to this for me. If you hear me scream like a little girl, come and save me, all right? Darkness nodded seriously, while Takuyami and Uraraka sniggered. Kazuma ignored them. Lurk! He crept forward, his dark vision allowing him to see despite the total lack of light once he had gone more than a few dozen paces. His sense foe was going nuts. There were hundreds. He carefully made his way forward. He came to a large cavern and gingerly leaned out. What he saw filled his belly with ice. The entire room was brimming with a swarming mass of bugs, but that wasn't all. At the center of it stood a cockroach that was larger than the others, standing on two legs. It was about a third of a meter high and wore a robe that trailed down to the floor with a crown on its head and a scepter grasped in one. It made it. I should have known. We are facing the Lord of the Tomb. That's one of his gems, Kazuma thought. He turned and fled immediately, dodging frantically around the swarming roaches. When he got near to his party, he heard grunts and clanging steel and felt his blood run cold. Masses of roaches were crawling forward. Not good. Kazuma, snipe a kindle, snipe a kindle. The bags of flour slapped into the swarm, the impact crushing a single roach. The fireball that erupted when Kazuma kindled the powder, however, was another matter, frying dozens of bugs in a single go. He yowled as bugs bit at him, but he raced forward, continuing his barrage until he rounded the corner, where his three companions run. There's one of the Tomb Lords. What? The others cried, looking up from their work. They were all covered in slime and ichor, and even Darkness seemed to have stopped enjoying herself, having holstered her sword to simply cry. It's the Duke of Terror. I'm so stupid. It was his bugs that nearly Kazuma panted. Thankfully, he still had enough HP and he's super damn crap. You're right. What can I've got some dynamite, Kazuma. We'll need the Baroness and maybe some other. No, Taku. If this fiend is here, what? No, Takuyama. You're right. You'll be. Even if that happens, Takuyami said, fear not. Death Dark Shadow screamed, kill. Holy shit. Kazuma breathed as Takuyami bellowed and ran forward, Dark Shadow annihilating every bug in their path. He actually does have a super dangerous inner demon. What did you think he was just pretending? Uraraka demanded. He's not some overly dramatic kid. Dark Shadow is a dangerous quirk. He told our team about it at the sports festival, and that it was super hard to control in the dark, and that he nearly killed his entire family when it first manifested. They had to call in a dozen police and 3 really strong pros to contain it, and that was when he was 5. I thought he was just some edgelord poser, Kazuma admitted. Well, we better get out of here to warn the village. Come back later and try to save him. Maybe I can use my lurk later to Darkness. Darkness was suddenly breathing heavily, her eyes gleaming with lust. That was the biggest, strongest, most dangerous monster. No, Darkness, this is. No, he needs me. He needs dark. Do not. Darkness, you're right. It is a crucial. Dark. Come on. Crap. Kazuma groaned. Darkness. He thought back to that day, the day where he'd watched all his friends die, one at a time. Darkness had been first, drained to a husk by the true Megumin had blown the bloodsucker to Kingdom Come once Kazuma had transferred enough MP to her. Wait, they're both. The passages they moved through were smeared with ichor and hunks of shattered carapace, the walls gouged with great claw and beak marks from where Dark Shadow had run wild. It didn't take them long to get to the cavern, where a swarm of roaches was now trying to overwhelm Takuyami. At first, it looked as though even Dark Shadow would be overcome by sheer numbers, but then Darkness wailed. Come at me, she bellowed. The roaches hesitated, then gave up their attack on Takuyami, who was now bleeding and battered both from the roaches and from the rampage of his out-of-control quirk. Dark Shadow seemed to be drawn by Darkness as well, screeching in rage and tossing aside the rent corpse of the Duke of Terror, who had been. 'Cause we've got to stop. Uraraka. Wait, Darkness is tough. Like, really tough. Let Dark Shadow kill all the bugs she's drawn to herself first, then we'll end this. 'Cause Uraraka. Okay, I've got a few bags of flour left. Could you float them up into the air above Dark Shadow? Kazuma asked. I need to fill this cavern with as much power. Yes, okay. I can do that. Uraraka agreed. Kazuma passed her his bags of flour, which Uraraka quickly flung into the cavern. They bounced off the ceiling and walls, and he quickly sniped them, scattering the powder, which floated around instead of settling like it normally would have. He watched carefully until Dark Shadow had stomped all the roaches into paste and was saying, "Okay, run, Kazuma." They fled, kindled. This time the explosion shook the walls, causing rocks to fall atop them and sections of the mine to collapse. Both Kazuma and Uraraka covered their heads with their arms, curled up into balls on the floor until the trembling stopped. At that point it was pitch black, the torches having been snuffed out. Kazuma groaned, brushing rocks off of himself and standing. He dug out a spare torch and lit it, then helped Uraraka to her feet. Bless her heel. Kazuma croaked, putting his hand on Uraraka. He coughed, groaning and staggering slightly. "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" Uraraka asked, quickly sliding under Kazuma's arm and using her quirk to make him weightless as she supported him. "No, almost out of MP." Kazuma groaned. "My skills are low level and cheap, but I've used them a lot. Come on, let's go check on the others." They made their way back to the cavern, Kazuma holding up his torch to illuminate it. Dark Shadow moaned, having reverted to a tiny, faded shape, and tried to hide under Takayami, who was lying atop Darkness, battered and bruised. Was it good for you too?" Darkness gasped, hugging Takayami and stroking his back affectionately. She was nearly naked now, her armor and bodysuit both shredded by the battle, her sword a mangled piece of metal tossed in a corner of the cavern. "My demon is tamed." Takayami grunted. "You are a most remarkable woman." "Thank you. You saved me." "Ooh, any time." Darkness giggled. "You do know how to show a lady a good time. Knock it off, you too," Kazuma said as Uraraka helped him over. He put a hand on both Takayami and Darkness. "Bless her heel." "My thanks," Takayami said, slowly standing. He took a spare torch Kazuma offered him, lighting it from Uraraka's as Kazuma's MP reserves were now totally drained. "It seems you are more useful than I initially thought. Perhaps my bonus was wisely chosen." "Oh, gee, thanks. But I guess you're not so bad yourself, Edgebird. I don't know many people who could solo a general of the tomb like you did." Kazuma chuckled, then grunted in pain as Darkness picked him up. "Put me down. I can walk." "No, you cannot," Darkness said, slinging him over her shoulder like a sack of rice. "No, I can't," Kazuma admitted. "But it's still humiliating. You and your damn muscles. As I have said, my body is my greatest asset to our party." Darkness chuckled. Takoyami eyed her appreciatively. "Indeed." "Oh, stop it. Don't let Kaz trash rub off on you, Takoyami." Uraraka giggled. "But Darkness, that was amazing. You are a true hero, to rush in to save a comrade. It was a selfless act." "No, it wasn't," Kazuma and Darkness said together. I rather enjoyed it," Darkness admitted. "I did want to save Takayami, but, well, I would be lying if I did not say I found the prospect thrilling." "Darkness, please just take the compliment." Uraraka sighed. She walked over, picking up the smashed crown and broken scepter from the corpse of the Duke of Terror. "Ugh, so gross. Come on, let's get out of here. We're a bunch of weirdos, but I guess we did manage to beat one of the generals of the Lord of the Tomb." "Yeah," Kazuma sighed as Darkness carried him up out of the mine. "It feels just like old times." Problem was, that was what worried him.
Oh my god. Okay. Okay, we're gonna continue the video. We're just gonna I'm gonna need a drink. Okay. Jenny, okay, I'm facing my drink because mine's not cold anymore. Okay. Now we can continue to 4, 5, and 6. First, delete this. That doesn't matter what it is called.
Good
Yep.
morning, Midoriya. Wait, no, good afternoon. Groaning, Izuku slowly opened his eyes to see the grinning face of Meihatsum hovering just a few inches above his own. A good afternoon. Yes, are you ready to make more babies? I think we can finish the steam engine today. With that, I can generate electricity, which I need to make aluminum babies. And Hatsum's words washed over Izuku. Oh God, Izuku whispered, tears filling his eyes. Handsome paused, frowning at Izuku. What? I'm sorry. Sniffed, rubbing at his eyes. I just my mom, all my UA are friends. It's gone Hatsum. We're stuck in another world. Oh, Hatsum studied Izuku for a second, then embraced him, giving Izuku a hard enough squeeze that it drove the breath out of his body. Yes, I am sad too. I will miss my mom and dad and sister, and also the two brats and Mr. Majima. Thank you. Izuku sniffed, crying into Hatsum's shoulder. I'm glad you're here, Hatsum. I know we don't know each other very well, but I mean, you're part of home. I hope Aqua can keep her word and send us back if we defeat the Lord of the Tomb. Hatsum gasped, jerking herself off of Izuku and peering down at him with her odd eyes, which seemed to be zooming in tightly on his face. Wait, Aqua can send us back. I thought I was going to have to make a bunch of super cute babies and try to replicate the explosion so that I could send us back. We should just ask her right now. Izuku sighed, siding up and running his hand through his hair. No, see, she's a goddess or something, but to send us back, first we have to beat the Lord of the Tomb, then she and Megumin will resurrect us like they promised. Megumin did not say that was possible. She simply said she wanted to make explosions and be my friend so we could make super cute babies together. Hatsum exclaimed. I thought I would have to figure it out all by myself. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Aqua can really even do what she said. Izuku admitted. She didn't know anything about our world. She knew nothing about Quarks or UA or even All Might. She claimed it was 2016 or something, in the before times. Well, that is dumb. She does not seem very much like a goddess. I did not believe in gods or goddesses. They seemed like pretend things, and pretend things are boring. I only agreed to come here because going to heaven or being reincarnated meant I would never get to make super cute babies again. Hatsum ranted. Yeah, Hizuku smiled at Hatsum, wiping away his tears. But we'll figure it out and get back to our homes one way or another. Yes, either with weird magic that is not pretend or with my super cute babies, Hatsum said and gave Izuku another excited hug. That was the point when Izuku realized a few things. The first of which, he was in a bed with a girl. The second was both he and the girl were wearing very little. In Izuku's case, he had on only a shirt and boxers, while Hatsum had on a sports bra and boy shorts. The third thing was, which combined with the fact that he had just woken up, triggered a rather natural Izuku. White Hatsum asked to clear. It is not your fault we died and came to this world. I am very glad that you are here with me. You are very strong and have Owamire like yours too. Izuku gasped, trying. If he had learned anything from books and TV, any second now she would slap him, or someone would barge and then accuse him of being a pervert or something else. Thank you. Come on, let's go eat something. I am very hungry. Hatsum jumped out of bed and made for the door to the room. Wait, Izuku cried. Don't go out there. Hatsum turned around, puzzled. Why do you have something to eat? And then no, Izuku, it's not what? Hungry if you want we can. And then no, we're not dressed. Izuku said meekly, lowering his eyes and wincing. Here it came. Oh yes, clothes. Thank you for reminding me. These are dirty too. I am dirty also. We should probably shower. Mom and Dad always yell at me if I come to breakfast dirty, Hatsum said, and started to pull off what little clothes she had. No, wait. Don't, Izuku yelped, jumping out of bed. He quickly tossed one of the blankets over Hatsum, wrapping her in it. I don't, want you to think I'm. They just seemed to confuse. What? You have been very nice, Midoriya. You are not a bully at all. You asked me to be on your team, and you helped me make babies. I think we should be friends. Yes? May discarded the blanket, going over to a trunk and opening it to rummage through it. Aha! Yes, clothes. Here, do you want some? Where are the pants? I do not like dresses. Izuku had to turn away when Hatsum stripped off her underwear, then pulled on a too-tight tunic and pulled on a pair of somewhat baggy trousers. Here, you are a little bit taller than me, so you take the bigger shirt. Hatsum looked at Izuku expectantly as she handed him a tunic, smiling happily. Thanks, or could I, a little privacy? Izuku asked, blushing as he took the clothes. There's no one else here, don't worry. Hatsum told him and started humming to herself as she continued to watch. Blushing, Izuku unwrapped himself. No, those are dirty. But you're watching me. Izuku, yes, do not worry. I have two brothers. I know what boys are like. Chief, wait, is this a social skills thing? I am very bad at those. Why, yeah, could you, wait outside? Izuku asked, trying to cover himself with the clothes. Okay, but do not worry, Izuku, I think your body is very nice. You do not need to be embarrassed. I would not make fun of you. Then she simply left the room, closing the door behind her. Izuku could hear her humming happily in the hallway. Completely unsure of how to take this new development, Izuku quickly changed clothes, taking off his sodden underwear. Reluctantly, he gathered up Hatsum's own dirty clothes, which she'd simply tossed on the floor, careful not to touch them, and put them in a basket that seemed to be for laundry. When Izuku stepped out of the room, Hatsum immediately began to talk about her plans for the steam engine, what materials she would need, and how they could eventually build a better forge to make higher quality materials. Izuku eyed her to see if she was angry at him or teasing him, but she simply seemed genuinely excited to talk to him, even moving in close enough that Izuku was slightly embarrassed. Good morning, Lord, Lady. A maid said, curtsying as Izuku and Hatsum came down the stairs to the inn's main room. Can I get you anything? Yes, we are hungry. Do you have coffee? What about pancakes? Or matcha? Something with lots of sugar. May asked eagerly. Coffee? I don't rightly know what that is, lady. We do have some cakes and pastries and hot tea, or if you prefer, wine or ale. That's fine. Any protein we could have with breakfast? Izuku asked. The maid gave Izuku a blank look, and he elaborated, that would be meat, eggs, milk, cheese, or maybe beans. Oh, of course. We've fresh milk to drink, and eggs and cheese, of course. I'll be right back with that. Please have a seat anywhere you like. Do you have chocolate milk? May asked eagerly. I like chocolate milk. No, I am very sorry, lady. I'm afraid I don't know much of what gods eat. The maid would. No, it's fine. Just some milk to drink, and those pastries and some cheese would be really great. We are very grateful, Izuku said, bowing quickly. Hatsum glanced at Izuku, then mimicked it. Oh, the maid squeaked. Please, I'm just a simple village girl. No need to thank me. The meal ended up being quite good, with Mei gorging herself on sweets while Izuku ate a more protein-intensive array with some fruits and vegetables. When they were nearly finished, Anton came in, smiling and bowing to Izuku and Mei. It is good to see you are refreshed. Lord Midoriya, my father, has tasked me with assisting in your training with the blade. Oh, right, that would be really great. Izuku agreed. He blushed, glancing at Hatsum, whose face was covered in crumbs with a prominent milk mustache. You don't mind, do you? It's really important that I learn how to fight properly. No, that's okay. That's why you're a hero and I'm a support. I'll just get the blacksmith to help today. Plus, he talked about making something cute for you. Special armor, maybe. Yeah, nothing too heavy. I don't want my movement to be restricted. Plus, one for all also enhances my durability. Izuku added. Write something lightweight. How we will have to show everyone how to manufacture aluminum. But for that I'll need my steam engine so we can do some electrolysis. Good luck, Midoriya. With that, Hatsum stood up and scrambled away, muttering to herself about what she planned on making. Izuku found his gaze following her, admiring just how snugly the tunic fit Hatsum's figure. He blushed and looked back to Anton, not wanting to appear to be a lech. She is a remarkable woman, Anton observed. Truly you gods are a breed apart. What? No, we're not. I mean, Hatsum and I are just people like you. Izuku objected. That made the other boy laugh. My friend, I watched you run fast enough to keep up with a galloping horse while wearing armor. And Martel tells me Lady Hatsum had created steel finer than he has ever seen, leaving aside the marvelous creations and their magical outbursts. I really am just a normal human. I was born quirkless, Izuku explained, but I was given powers by All Might, the greatest hero to ever live. Without one for all, you are blessed by the gods then, Anton said, nodding in understanding. Just as Father Henry and Marie have been. What happened to Marie? Izuku asked. Did you hear the blast this morning? Anton asked. When Izuku shook his head, he chuckled. I see your lady must have tired you. Do not blush, I jest. But Lady Megumin, she has bestowed her magic upon Marie. She can now perform a feat of magic that will be unrivaled in all of Royam. It is not as impressive as what the goddesses can manage, of course, but it will be a great boon to our village. Now, come, let us dance. The sword training with Anton proved to be painful and exhausting, but Izuku kept at it determinedly. He found that he was once more struggling to tap into one for all, and that keeping up with Anton was a challenge. The other boys seemed to think Izuku was taking it easy on him. Despite Izuku's continued insistence, he really was just an ordinary human. At dinner, Izuku and the others were invited to the Count's Manor, which was a large, fortified house on the northern outskirts of the village. It had a wooden palisade around it that was large enough to hold all of the villagers in an emergency, though boys said it was rare these days for many strong monsters to come close. Still, you never know when there might be a resurgence of goblinoids or a great beak that decides to attack our herds, boys told Izuku. Here my eldest Gaston and Sir Lenore, and honor my lord and ladies, Gaston said, bowing deeply. He looked to be in his early 20s, and like his father already bore several battle scars. He also introduced his wife Chanel and their infant daughter Isabel, who would be dining with them as well. Sir Lenore, it turned out, was a woman somewhere in her late 20s, stoutly built, and with an eye patch over her left eye which appeared to not be decorative like Megumin's was. She curtsied silently, then went to sit with Sir Jacques at the foot of the table. The Baron, it seemed, was single, his wife having died of a fever along with their youngest daughter some years ago. Life in this world, it seemed, even for nobility, was harsh and short. As for Izuku's companions, Aqua wore the same dress as ever, and Megumin was in her robes. Izuku and Mei had changed into their tracksuits, which had been laundered. Izuku found it a bit awkward to sit in something so casual when the Count and his party were dressed in their formal best, but then again the tracksuits probably appeared exotic and fancy to them. So, Midoriya, I have to know, are you some sort of fighter? What exactly is your class? Megumin demanded when they sat down to eat. Hatsum is obviously an artificer, but what are you? You're trying to learn the one-handed sword skill, and Aqua says you have the medium armor skill. I'll have you know I'm used to adventuring with a very sturdy crusader, so I will demand the very best protection from you if we're to defeat the Lord of the Two Class, Izuku asked. Yes, Hatsum put in. Hero, Megumin protested around a mouthful of food. Aqua had poured herself a Izuku glanced at their host, blushing and worried that he'd call out these so-called goddesses on their manners, but neither the Count nor his, well, I'm not sure I know what you mean them. Izuku said, feeling flustered as he took portions himself. The food looked good, though it clearly wasn't Japanese. There was a great deal of bread, soups, meats cooked in wine or creamy sauces, and some fresh fruit and greens. What? It's obvious. See, Aqua is an archpriest. That's how she's got loads of support and healing spells, plus she's nearly as high level as me, Megumin explained. I'd be higher if you weren't such a kill stealer, Aqua muttered. Well, then you should be faster to get in the killing blow. Megumin sniffed. As for me, well, I am an arch-wizard of the Crimson Demon Clan, the most powerful race of magic users. I am a master of explosion magic. The pronouncement got the attention of their host, a dark goddess. Gaston muttered, making a warning gesture by holding his Yes, I will save the world with my explosions, and from the ashes I shall remake it more perfect and complete. Megumin declared, jumping up on her chair and posing with a dramatic swirl of her cape. No vile creature shall stand before me. Even the Lord of the Tomb will. She sat back down. So what class are you? Warrior, knight, or just a basic adventurer? I'm none of them, Izuku said, rubbing the back of his head. I mean, I wanted to become a hero when I graduated, but I guess I'm going to have to do that now. What? How can you not have a class? Megumin pointed to Marie. She's clearly a wizard, and they're both knights, while the Count is a swordmaster. It is kind of you to say such things, but Blois said, bowing his head to Megumin. The only living swordmasters in the kingdom are Charles de Gallant and Countess d'Arch. Why, I'm a count, Blois said, blinking in confusion. That is, I'm a minor landed noble. Wait, do you mean a class like from a video game? Izuku asked, vaguely recalling something his classmates at school had talked about. He'd never been one for fantasy games, but he'd heard about Yes, just like in the MMO, Megumin said. So what class? I don't have one, Izuku admitted. Or maybe student or trainee hero. People don't just have classes where I come from. That is ridiculous. How do you choose your skill, Meg? You said you wanted to be a hero. Well, heroes have to have an advanced class. You can't just, you have to pass the hero line. Then you become a pro hero and can use your quirk in public so long it's on a mission. Quirks are like what he calls magic. His world is super weird. I don't think it's actually one of you and Hatsum's quirks are obviously special abilities from Megumi. Mine is from my dad, Hatsum said, looking up from her plate, which was covered in nothing but sweet desserts. She was going to make herself sick as she continued to eat like that, but Izuku didn't feel comfortable telling her so as he barely knew. My sister and I both got our quirk from Dad. Ours is called Zoom. My little brother Nick, yeah, quirks are genetic. You get them from your parents. Izuku, really? Hatsum asked excitedly. Izuku fidgeted. It was supposed to be a secret, but Hatsum seemed like the best candidate, so he leaned over and whispered in her ear, I got it from All Might. His quirk can be passed. Okay, Hatsum, but that is, Izuku put his hand to Hatsum's mouth, wincing. SHH, secret. It got her to nod vigorously, and Izuku withdrew his hand. I won't tell, I promise. But I will definitely be able to think of ways to make super cute babies just for now. Yeah, it's a problem. I'm still growing into it, Izuku admitted. He looked back to Megumin and Aqua, who both appeared gobsmacked. You're just born with powerful skills. My parents are both accomplished archwizards, so I inherited a high intelligence stat from them, but I had to earn skill points by earning skill potions and leveling up to even begin to earn enough skill points to learn explosion. You keep talking about levels, Izuku said slowly. You don't get, what's it called? XP, from fighting stuff. Aqua looked at Izuku as though he'd just told her the world's supply of alcohol had run out. Wow, I guess you really aren't a neat, huh? This is like super basic stuff, Midoriya. That's how most fantasy worlds work. You get experience from fighting monsters, doing quests, or eating special food. Though I'm sort of surprised this food isn't worth any experience, it's pretty tasty. You are not enjoying your food? Blois asked, sounding worried. No, it's good, but I won't get any levels out of it, Aqua told him. I mean, I have to eat a lot of food to level up now anyways. I'm level 78. And I'm level 84, Megumin declared, a mischievous grin on her face. That's why I'm the greatest archwizard in the entire world. I got the killing blow on you don't get levels or points or anything but nutrition out of food where I'm from. I think it's the same way here. Our repast is to fortify ourselves and give us strength. To prepare it takes skill, to partake of it does not. Boy said, then chuckled and nodded to his granddaughter, who was still young enough that a servant had to mash food for her and feed her at a separate table. This Megan, no experience, no levels, no skills. I mean, I taught Marie explosion. It wasn't even hard. She didn't have an adventurous card, I admit, but I don't know, gave her the knowledge. I just showed her how to recite the spell, and then she could do it. It was far easier learning magic from you, Lady Megumin, Marie said, bowing her head respectfully. I'm but a simple freemage. I spent years in a guild hall to learn the half-dozen incantations I know, each requiring great effort to master. But when you showed me your divine magic, it was as though it was etched into my mind with a fiery quill, and I understood immediately. Yet because that's how learning spells is supposed to work, Megumin said. I could tell you're a decent enough level, even if you only know basic magic. You just must have had enough extra skill points to master explosion, which for a wizard is 60 points. That's a lot to just leave lying around. No, you must actually be becoming a goddess. Aqua mused. I think I remember something about the survivors of the Crimson Demon clan worshipping you, the ones left alive when the Lord of the Tomb conquered your world. So if you have followers, you can grant blessings to them. And Marie converted to your cult when you offered to teach her explosion magic, so she counts. That's how you taught Hatsum too. Wait, Megumin can teach that to anybody, Izuku asked, feeling half panicked. From what he had seen, that spell was incredibly destructive, and she'd already asked him if he wanted to use it, if she started teaching it to just anyone. No, only really devoted followers of hers that already meet the stat requirements, Aqua said with a shrug, and they'll only be able to use it as long as Megumin has enough prayers and offerings to allow it. Wait, could I use that holy power to cast more explosions? Megumin demanded eagerly. I guess. I don't have much MP myself, since my intelligence is so low, so I have to draw most of my spells from my followers' belief, Aqua explained. You're used to using your own magic reserves, but you could do the same thing. I'll show you how. It's not that hard. Just make sure you have enough followers or you'll run out of belief. Oh, that won't be a problem, Megumin said, rubbing her hands. She grinned at Marie. I charge you as the first of my followers on this world to spread news of my power across the land. Inform my disciples that if they beseech me, I, Megumin, dark goddess of explosions, will bestow the blessing of explosion magic upon them in their hour of need. Why, Marie, your pardon, my lord, but my goddess calls. First, I must beg leave of you. Boy stood slowly. Go, these new goddesses are powerful indeed. With their might, the evil of this world shall shudder, and men will at last push back the dark. Wait, Meg, I'm going to have to teach you. Of course, my lady, I shall learn everything I can from you. Marie swore, bowing and kissing the hem of Megan. That looks really silly, May muttered. Like what my little brother Kamaru and his dumb friends do when they're trying to copy cartoon heroes. Izuku snorted, covering his mouth with his hands. Really, it reminded him of what he used to do when he was a kid, dressing up like All Might and posing in front of the mirror. That was the sort of thing that heroes did only for publicity stunts when they were trying to appeal to middle school and elementary kids. It is not silly, Megumin protested, planting her hands on her hip. Marie nodded. No, Megumin ran. Look, you're not even posing. Here, stick your arm up like that. Then make a cool sign in front of your face with the other. Now bend one leg slightly and stick the other out. That's better. And don't just say it. You really have to mean it. Otherwise, it won't make the same impression. After several tries and corrections, each more ridiculous than the last, Marie was finally ready. Taking a deep breath, she struck a ridiculous pose, making a V shape before her right eye, one arm out and raised while she cackled maniacally. Behold, I am Marie, wizard and priestess of the Crimson Demon clan. I am a wielder of the secret arcane arts, mightiest of magics. All that is wicked sees me and despairs. Better, Megumin said, rubbing her chin. Come, now we have to practice some incantations. You can't just wave your hand and chant explosion a bunch. Sure, it will work, but that's just for basic stuff. To really get the good stuff, you have to be creative. Come on, I saw a nice, open field with a bunch of rocks in it. We'll practice there. You Midoriya handsome, come on. We'll need someone to carry us back when we're done. Sighing, Izuku pushed his chair and then followed Megumin and Marie, handsome happily tagging along as she shoved sweets into her pockets. Great, he was going to be an accessory to arson and a delusional middle schooler's cult. These goddesses must be crazy. The problem with success, Kazuma reflected, was that it raised people's expectations. When he'd just been a loser in ET, no one had really expected him to do anything. Sure, his parents had yelled at him to go to school, but they'd always just sighed in resignation when it turned out he'd spent yet another day in his room playing video games. When he'd first become a famous adventurer, Kazuma had been very careful to continue to cultivate his persona as a useless laybout so that he didn't get sent on too many quests, as those really cut into his naps and veg sessions. Here in Konosuba, Baroness von Galen had seemed to start to catch on to the fact that Kazuma wasn't a god, but in fact a bum who enjoyed staying in bed until noon and eating junk food. And then he'd gone and killed the Duke of Terror, and now she seemed to have decided he was a useful, if strange, person. She just needed to properly motivate him. She demanded, strolling into Kazuma's room as her servants flung open his drapes. To get some sleep. It has been 2 days. I've talked with Lady Dustiness. She says she knows you well, Von Galen said, snapping her fingers. The two, he slowly they were both cute young ladies. You're lech correct. Hey now. Kazuma growled. She was about a decade older than Kazuma, and she would have been cute if it wasn't for the fact she was also married, and her husband was a tough-looking knight named Han. Besides, Von Galen was also pregnant, and that sort of thing really turned Kazuma. She had 3 children already. The oldest was nearly 10. MILFs were cool and all except when they carried around swords and had husbands who had large, little axes to grind. It is nothing. Uraka, she is a miser. She works for gold. She was quite happy with the money and possessions I have given her. Lady Dustiness is someone who finds satisfaction only in the field of battle. I understand this. The two, wait, what do you, they are girls from the village. Do you, I am Helga M. Lord. The blonde with a larger bust and freckles. My name is Gretchen M. Lord. She was a bit flat. The whole I'm Von Galen studied Kazuma. Girls, return to your quarters. I will speak with this man alone. The girls quickly hurried off, and she was pretty far along, though that hadn't stopped her from challenging Kazuma to a duel and going at it harder than a woman in her condition at any. Yes, you were. You know, I really don't appreciate. Kazuma snapped. Would you, if it would get you to agree to venture forth once more, I would happily let you call me whatever. Von, we have been under assault for some weeks now. Already, the kingdoms to our east have been conquered. The Kaiser himself is marshaling his forces and has called me to fulfill my oaths. I would have you go in my stead. Were I and my retainers to leave, my lands would be undefended. Yet my house is poor, and I have lost 2 men already this month to the deadly new monsters that have begun appearing. And I am with child. Kazuma folded his arms over his chest and sat cross-legged on his mattress. If you're trying to make me pity you, it's not going to work. You'll me for killing the Duke of Terror. He was a major, big shot in the Lord of the Tomb's forces. I think I've earned a little R&R. True, and I would be a fool to simply turn out a mage as skillful as you are. Not to, Kazuma declared. That was actually a bit of a lie, but not a huge one. It sort of depended on how you counted sub-skills, like basic magic, which included create water and earth, kindle, and gust. Still, Kazuma was pretty confident in his skill set. Then you are an archmagnus of unparalleled skill, perhaps even a god as you claim, Von Galen said with a nod. Even if you knew only the well, you buttered me up, but you keep calling me a pervert, so Kazuma, the girls, Von, what? Kazuma gasped, going beet red. I'm not taking slaves. That's wrong, Von Galen shrugged. They will not be slaves, they will be paid. They are from poor families with few prospects and no skills to speak of. I told them that if they pleased you, I would pay their families and land, and when their service to you is complete, they can return and be my house servants. Of course, if you get them with child, the bastards will be your responsibility, and you will be expected. You mean I can just? Kazuma asked, flushing and tapping his fingers together. He was still a virgin need at heart, no matter what people claimed. Sure, he had nearly gone beyond the final frontier with Megumin, but they'd never quite crossed that line, even if they'd promised to do so. You can use them however you like, so long as you do not harm them. Lady Dustiness says you are a lecher, but not a cruel or violent man, so I have little worry of that. All you need do is agree to go to Hopstad and anything, Kazuma asked, feeling his pulse quicken and his heart pound in his chest. They have been instructed in the basics of pleasing a man. I believe them to both be maidens, but I cannot swear to it. But so long as you fight, consider them to be your mistresses, or as Lady Dustiness said, harem. Kazuma's jaw dropped. After years of adventuring, even a stint in the divine realm, he was finally growing into what his dream had always been, a harem protagonist. But at the same time, Kazuma remembered a certain flat-chested mage with crimson eyes and an explosion fetish. He remembered holding her in the dark the night before they'd faced the Devil King, and again holding her broken body in his hands, weeping tears and blood as the Lord of the Tomb spell killed him for the last time. Was he still Kazuma? Well, yeah, he wasn't going to change overnight. But the thought of going beyond the point of no return with some peasant girls who he didn't know at all, it just wasn't appealing. No, Kazuma whispered, tears trickling down his face as he forced the word out. No, you do not like the girls. There are others. Or perhaps you prefer boys. I can find you some of those, though it will take longer, and you will likely wish for it to remain a secret. No, Kazuma yelped, jumping back away from the insane noblewoman. I'm not yay bait. No, I just, look. There's a girl. I don't know if we can ever be together. We died fighting the Lord of the Tomb, and, well, there's no sex in the divine realm, so we never really got the chance, but I can just shack up with some random NPC now. I am firmly committed to the Megumin path, and I will get the H scene at the end, mark my words. Von Galen gave Kazuma a flat look. You speak in nonsense and riddles. Very well, man. Oh, don't get me wrong, Kazuma sighed. Look, fine, I'll go beat the Lord of the Tomb or whatever, but I can't take the maids. I'll just go with Darkness and the other two. But I want money. Lots of money. I need to be stinking rich by the time this is done so that I never have to work a day in my life again. If you win glory on the battlefield, fear not. The Kaiser will reward you handsomely. I suppose greed is as good a motivator as any. Get dressed. We have work to do, boy. With that, Von Galen got up and left, leaving a very frustrated Kazuma alone. He briefly thought about asking for one of the maids to help him, but no, he was in need, and in the way of his people, he used a sock. Feeling a bit better, Kazuma walked outside, where he was surprised to see Darkness waiting for him, dressed in her armor. She smiled. You turned her down, didn't you? What? No. I told her she had to pay me lots of money. I'm not saving the world for free, you know. Kazuma snapped. You are a very strange man, Kazuma. Darkness laughed, slapping him on the shoulder hard enough to stagger him. Geez, frickin' Amazonian menace. But you are a good one. I told Von Galen the thought of having a harem might appeal to you, but it would not motivate you in the end. Yeah, well, Megumin's probably up in the divine realm watching me. If I were to cross the final frontier with some nameless NPC, she'd probably explosion my ass just to harass me on the other side, and Ak was not around to resurrect me. Heck, she'd probably join in on the torment too, and that's just too much bother. Well, it is good that you are so loyal to Megumin, even if you must justify it to yourself, Darkness told him. Kazuma eyed her. Darkness was different somehow. Happier, more loose. What's up with you? Why didn't you try to sneak into my room again like you did our first night here? I mean, yeah, I'm opposed to the NPC, but if you tried hard enough, I might give in to temptation. You never know. I've accepted that despite the feelings I long harbored for you, you do not return them, Kazuma. Besides, truly, you are not the sort of man who can truly satisfy me. Merely a man who I developed a great deal of affection for over our time together and showered me with abuse, Darkness told him. Kazuma's eyes suddenly narrowed. Darkness had a black eye, and she was limping slightly as she walked. Even those cockroaches. You're sleeping with Takuyami, Kazuma gasped, pointing an accusing finger at Darkness. We have done, Dark. He needed, and you got off on it? Kazuma sighed. At least tell me you had the courtesy to give him a hand yourself when you were done. I will not talk of such shameful things. Darkness protested. It would. And then she stood there expectantly, face flushed, hands balled up in fists that were quivering with anticipation on. Oh, great. So he gave you a pearl necklace or what? Kazuma demanded. Darkness blinked, relaxing slightly. What? No, we did not exchange jewelry. So Kazuma had to explain, which of course embarrassed Darkness, which meant she really enjoyed it. It turned out she and Takayami hadn't gone quite that far, but apparently they both had rather enjoyed themselves. And after we were done, he was so gentle and tender. I told him to knock that right off. He needed to verbal. Darkness explained. But he is learning, and I just know he can become the sort of terrible man I want to marry. I so didn't need to hear that. Kazuma and Darkness turned to see a disgusted Uraraka looking at them. She cheated her tracksuit, now dressed in mail and leathers with an oilskin cloak, sturdy boots, and tough plate gauntlets that would let her use her special skill but also protect her arms in battle. She actually sort of looked like a competent adventurer now. Oh, you've heard my shame. This is so embarrassing. Darkness moaned, panting heavily. Yeah, let's just change the subject. So I hear you agreed to come, Kazuma. Uraraka demanded. Yeah, fine, I'll help you idiots save the world. Again, Kazuma said, rolling his eyes. You'd all end up dead without me, and Darkness would bother me about that for the rest of eternity once we get back to the divine realm. That's great. Von Galen said we can get super rich if we beat the Lord of the Tomb. She already gave me 50 gold pieces. That's enough to buy a farm, you know. And a good one, not a crappy one. Hey, can I take my money back with me when I go? Uraraka asked. I don't see why not. Aqua said I would get a wish when I beat the Devil King. Oh, what did you wish for? Uraraka asked. She should get your. Kazuma trailed off, feeling embarrassed yet again. And you did not want to leave Megumin. Darkness finished. No, Kazuma protested, his cheeks heating despite his best efforts. Not just that. I mean, it was all my friends. Back in Japan, well, I was a NEET. I didn't have any friends. Even being stuck in the divine realm, that was all right. At least I had you girls. Even if I didn't manage to unlock Megumin's H scene, I'm stuck with a bunch of perverts. Uraraka groaned, shaking her head in disgust. At least you're all decent in a fight. Surely you do not lump me in with Kazuma. Takayami said, revealing himself from behind a corner at the end of the hall, his new cloak billowing dramatically as dark shadow fluttered it. I don't know, Uraraka said sweetly. Were those your moans or darkness last night? That is, she was helping me master Dark Shadow. Takayami sputtered. Both Dark Shadow squawked. She's weird and he's into it. Takayami glared at his shadow, who smirked at him. Damnable demon. I think he's wonderful, Darkness said, scratching Dark Shadow under the chin, then kissing him on the cheek. A complete monster. That's right, Toots. Dark Shadow agreed. 2 for the price of 1. Shouldn't we be making ready to depart? Takayami asked. If birds could blush, he would be doing it. I'm ready to go, Kazuma said with a shrug. Uraraka frowned at him. What about food? Water? Kazuma held up his hand. Create PFFF. Uraraka gasped as the stream of pure, fresh summon rations. Kazuma said. Rice balls appeared in his hands. He handed a pair to Darkness, munching on one himself. Pretty sure I'm good. That, Uraraka said, wiping her face off, is the most amazing thing ever. You wouldn't ever have to buy food or drinks. Is there a limit? What about other kinds of food? Vitamins? Kazuma shrugged, taking another bite and speaking around a mouthful of food. Relax. Yes, there's a limit, but it's just my MP, and this is a pretty basic spell, so it's cheap. The only downside is the food I make is pretty bland, but I have some furicake and stuff in my pack so we can stretch it. It is most useful on long dungeon trips, and it's always fresh. Darkness agreed. I do not mind the lack of variety as long as it is not for extended periods. Variety. Who cares? We're going to save so much money doing this. Uraraka said eagerly, her eyes dancing with delight. I thought we'd have to pay for all kinds of supplies, but we can just get some vitamins and protein and we'll be set for life. Maybe. Do you have any skill points? It cost 3 for an adventurer. Look, Kazuma, we've been over this. Takayami sighed. The rules from whatever world you're from are different than either the one Uraraka and I came from or the one we find ourselves in now. I grant that there must have been levels, skill points, and experience in your prior life, but here, yeah, Dark Uraraka looked deeply disappointed. Hey, don't sweat it. I'll create food for the whole party, and I would tell you such magic is utterly impossible, and I not just witnessed it. Von Galen said, waddling up to the party. They were standing at the entrance to her manor, and she looked them up and down, then shook her head. I am no mage, but I have employed and worked alongside them. You cannot create physical matter with magic. You can manipulate it, you can change it, you can draw energy from yourself for your surroundings, but to create it, that is the province of gods. Perhaps there is more credence to your claim. I Kazuma. Then he, look, I'm going to save the world, not to make you happy or something, but because, damn it, I'm getting my happy ending, and if defeating another stupid villain is the only way back to the divine realm, then I'm doing it. I care not for your reasons, only that you do it. I have horses prepared for you. They are not much in the way of mounts, but they are more than the village can spare, so be grateful for them. It is vital you reach the Kaiser and aid in the defense. Thank you very much. Uraraka said, stepping forward and bowing politely. We will not fail you, Baroness. I shall pray to Psyche Deal for your success, Galen said gravely. Go and may your roads be free of troubles. Out of the party, only Darkness had any experience with horses, happily selecting her mount, a large plow horse, and swinging into the saddle, armor and all. Kazuma managed to mount without too much trouble, while Uraraka simply floated herself in. Takoyami, on the other hand, regarded the horse just as skeptically as it did him in Dark Shadow, whickering nervously and shying away from him. Yeah, Dark Shadow agreed. Oh, it is not so bad. And that is a mare. She looks gentle. Darkness encouraged. Here, let me show you. She slid off, first soothing the horse, then helping Takoyami into the saddle. There she gave him a brief description on how to handle the horse, from how to give commands to how to sit properly. So, have you ridden a horse before, Kazuma? I did on a class trip and at the fair, but no, but I'm an expert. What? How can you be an expert if you've never ridden a horse before? Hi, Kazuma barked and tugged on the reins. His horse, a feisty gelding, reared up, then dashed around the yard, Kazuma easily guiding it. They jumped a fence, then back over, and Kazuma reined the horse in next to Uraraka, grinning widely, riding skill. Of course I should have known. Uraraka said, rolling her eyes. Well, I'm excited. I always wanted to go on a big adventure and fight bad guys. My dad and I used to play D&D with his friends. It's pretty cheap. All you need is a book, pencils, paper, and your imagination. What, are you an otaku or something? Kazuma taunted. Well, if I am, it's coming in handy now, isn't it? Uraraka said, sticking her tongue out at him. Darkness led the way down the road, following a map from Von Galen. It was over a week's travel to Hauptstadt and the Kaiser's palace. Supposedly there would be monsters along the way, but there would also be towns and villages so they wouldn't have to rough it. Kazuma glanced up at the sun, then over at Uraraka and Takoyami, who were talking about their lives back in the strange Japan they came from. He clicked his tongue so his mount drew up alongside Darkness's. Remember our first adventure together? Kazuma asked. Do you mean when you stole my goddess panties, or perhaps when we faced the cabbages? Darkness teased. Not that. I mean when we went on a real adventure, like when we went hunting those goblins and ran into the beginner's bane. I remember having to protect you and the others while you fled in terror. Darkness giggled, smiling as she relaxed in her saddle, letting her horse find its way down the dirt road. That's not what happened at all. It was only with my quick thinking that any of us survived, Kazuma argued. Well, you were just a low-level adventurer then with only that dink short sword. It would have made short work of you. Poor Aqua was crying, and Megumin had used her explosion on the goblins and was exhausted, and you were screaming in panic. No, I used my skills, and I heroically fought it off. You were the useless one. And so it went as the party ventured forth, Kazuma and Darkness arguing over old memories. Somehow it wasn't so bad being alive again.
I think that's enough. If you want me, please like, favorite,